sitting in.
Yeah,
But
we don't
really,
really have to.
okay, but it doesn't.
They're running.
that time of year. It's going to do this to us for about a year. What? For about 4 or 5 weeks, then we'll be past it. I don't know. What can I do? I don't know.
Decent
Nothing.
crowd, so that's good.
Yeah. Ready. Okay, ready. That's Jay saying ready.
Rabbi, where do you want me to sit?
Whatever chair looks most comfortable.
Still more back.
Oh, no, that's not a choice. Sorry, you're right. Funny, though. That's funny. Shabbat Shalom and welcome. It's great to see so many people here, as has been our custom for 2 years. And 2 years, it becomes more than custom, I guess, in a synagogue. We have kept these doors open. Of course, you can remain seated, except for when we're taking the Torah out of the ark or rising for certain prayers. We do that because we know that there are a good number of people, a very good number of people, who every week join us now or later on YouTube to watch our service and to watch it. So we like to have the ark open for them, and they appreciate that. It is that time of year. The days are getting longer. The sun is setting later, and different parts of the service are being whited out by the beam of sun. So tonight, when our women of Reform and Judaism lead us in worship, as Shana said, I'll just go to that podium. I don't usually get that option with John and the other soloists. So if you come up here and you're blinded, feel free to use whichever podium you want. It'll be done in about 10 minutes. We do have a lot of light in here, which tells us that summer is coming. And we are just so glad to have you here with us this Shabbat. It's all right, I'll just continue. The WRJ service, which is taking place tonight, our Women for Reform Judaism, there was discussion of, well, maybe we'll just push it off to the fall, and they will lead another service for us in the fall. But we thought it was very, very important during May to mark two major events in our community, in the Jewish world and in the whole world. The first is that 100 years ago, March 1922, Judith Kaplan, later Judith Kaplan Eisenstadt, had the first Bot Mitzvah. Her father, Rabbi Mordechai Kaplan, who spoke of Judaism as a culture and a civilization, wrote a number of wonderful books on the topics, was the founder of the Society for Cultural Judaism, and was the founder of the Reconstructionist movement, a Jewish theological seminary teacher, the founder who spoke about full equality between men and women, and was among the first to call for the service. And I guess like many rabbis, and at that time men who were rabbis, his daughter became the first one. Professor Gary Zola led a wonderful session at the Rabbis Convention a couple months ago, which were a series of letters from Judith Kaplan that showed us that here was this woman put in the forefront of being a role model, a leader, who was not just a 13-year-old girl in her letters trying to manage all these expectations. It is hard for some of us to remember now how much the world has changed in 100 years. And in fact, those of you who are older than 50 and 60, some of you will say, hey, I never had a bat mitzvah, or if I did, it wasn't when I was 12 or 13. It was when people got around to it. So even though the first bat mitzvah was 1922, it took many, many, many decades until it became the norm. I'm going to step right over here for a moment because no one at home can see me. That was a smart solution. It was many, many years before that continued and became normative, if you will, for those of us in our 40s, 50s, we might remember a time where it began to become an accepted, normal part of life in the 70s and 80s. But even then, there were many communities, even when I was ordained as a rabbi, there were still no small percentage of parents who I would say, well, what about your daughter? And they'd say, well, we'll figure that one out, but we want to make sure the son has a date. And so it's a chance tonight to acknowledge wonderful changes in our world and how much the Jewish world has changed in a very short time. If that 100-year anniversary wasn't enough, June 3rd, 2nd and 3rd, 1972, were the ordination of the first female Reform rabbi. And we are also marking that date in the Jewish world this month and this year. There is a wonderful exhibit in Cincinnati and in New York this month. But if you can't get to Hebrew Union College at either of those sites, we wanted to mark it here. We wanted to mark that groundbreaking event that through a lot of sweat and tears and hard labor, those first group of women transformed the way our young women, our future leaders, can think about themselves. So we live in a time now where any young woman can say, maybe I'll be a rabbi instead of, is that a thing? An exciting time. So I want to thank all the leaders of our Women of Reform Judaism who will be leading our service tonight. And it works out very, not conveniently, it was sort of planned, that afterwards we're going to have our cuisine of our heritage dinner. Alan Feinberg made sure these got started. They've been dormant for a few years. We have well over 100 people attending. We are glad you're here. All the money raised goes to the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society and also to helping resettlement efforts and those in need in Ukraine. The menu tonight is Ukraine. If you're at home and you're wondering when it's time to come back, the MRJ Cooking Dinners is a good time to come back to synagogue. For those who are not yet comfortable, we are glad you can join us from wherever you are tonight. Before I call Michelle Hartman, the president of our Women for Reform Judaism, I want to just say a word about Sally Priesand. Sally Priesand, the first woman Reform rabbi, who in her memoirs mentions that it took 8 years. That might be interesting to you because most Reform rabbis take 5 to 6 years to be ordained. There were a lot of boundaries to be broken so that she could get to that point. I try to think back what it must have been like to be the only woman in a class of men. And those of you who broke down barriers in other professions can understand what that must have felt like. She says, it is still too soon, this was in 1975, to assess the impact of my ordination. But I would hope that it would at least mark a transition in our congregations. That sole involvement on the part of women in the synagogue kitchen and the classroom should move toward complete and full participation on the pulpit and in the boardroom as well. When I accepted ordination on June 3rd, 1972, I affirmed my belief in Judaism and publicly committed myself to the survival of Jewish tradition. I did so knowing that Judaism had traditionally discriminated against women, that it had not always been sensitive to the problems of total equality. I know that there has been a tremendous flexibility in our tradition that enabled our survival. Therefore, I choose to work for change through constructive criticism. The principles and ideals for which our ancestors have lived and died are much too important to be cast aside. We must accept responsibility of the covenant upon ourselves, learn as much as possible of our heritage, and make the necessary changes which will grant women total equality within the Jewish community. And so several members of our WRJ will share some reflections tonight. Members of our congregation will lead parts of the service, lead us in song, lead us in prayer, read from the Torah, and if you've not yet had a Bot Mitzvah and you're past 13 and you're thinking about it, just know know the door of the ark is open for you and waiting for you when you are ready. This is going to be among the last things I say tonight as I call up President of our congregation, Michelle Hart.
Not congregation, just WRJ.
WRJ. Oh, I'm trying to. We have a president of our congregation
please
over there.
do not
that
do
must
that
be
to me.
some sort of like thing going through my mind. I didn't mean that to slip out. So there we go. Sorry.
Yes, for the short people here. Hi, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. It's good to see everyone here tonight. Rabbi was talking a little bit about 50 years of female rabbis and 100 years of women in the Reform movement being able to have bat mitzvahs. And he asked a couple of questions that I sent out to the people that are participating here with us tonight. One of them was, what was it like when you realized that you could have a bat mitzvah? And quite honestly, I always knew that I could have a bat mitzvah. My sister had a bat mitzvah. It didn't occur to me that girls couldn't have bat mitzvahs. I didn't have a bat mitzvah. But that was because we moved and we didn't join another congregation, not because I didn't want to do the work. But eventually, one day I'll be up here and Linda will teach me and I will read the Torah. She taught my kids, she can teach me, hopefully. But it never occurred to me that girls couldn't be bat mitzvahed. It's a very foreign thought to me that there was a time that girls couldn't be bat mitzvahed. Now, when it comes to female rabbis, that's a little bit of a different story. I was raised conservative, and women were not really in leadership roles. They could have bat mitzvahs, but they really weren't in leadership roles. And I'm sure I have met a female rabbi some point in my life, but I couldn't tell you who she was. I couldn't tell you where I met her, except for it was probably at a WRJ function. I understand there are several in the Dallas area, and I look forward to getting to know them. But it's still it's not foreign for me to see a female rabbi up on the bima, but I just don't know any. And it's been 50 years. So that's got to say something. We need more women in these leadership positions, in these leadership roles. It's very important. So any of the younger girls that are out there, consider doing this. It's important for Judaism. It's important for women. And we all know that women's rights are problematic right now, to say the least. And we need to make sure that we are in these leadership roles so that we don't have our rights restricted. With that being said, I would like to just skim past that and continue on with thanking everyone that came tonight, all my sisters who are participating in the service. I really appreciate you. My board, I love my board. I have the best board in the world. The ladies on my board that are here with me tonight, let's see, Liz Mannion, just give a little wave. Shayna Coyne, let's see who else, Jetty Solomon, and, oh, Linda Hoffman, of course. Oh, Marge Van Giesen, yes, Marge is our co-VP of culinary. I think that's everyone that's on the board that's with me tonight, but I also have Eve Schulman, who couldn't make it tonight, and Kim Factor, who couldn't make it tonight, and Jeannie Rosenblum, who couldn't make it tonight, and I appreciate all of them and all of their work very, very much. Now, in an effort to make this short and sweet, thank you, everyone. At this point, I would like to invite up my sweet baby girl, Haley Moore, to come do the candle blessing, and Ruth Roper to come do the English.
Asher Kiddushanu, b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, v'halek ne'osef Shabbat. We're turning to page 126, if you please will turn in your prayer book. Page 126. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics, and no services. But I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other and to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created and to work to perfect it. To love God is to dream of peace and joy that illumines all of us and to bring that vision to life.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei Hasharet, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei Hasharet, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei Hasharet, Hasharet Baruch Hu. Tzeitchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei Hasharet, Hasharet Baruch Hu.
Please join me for the Chatzi Kaddish, page 144. Yitgadal v'yikadash shemei Rabbi, v'alma v'mrak yurtei v'yomich malkutei, v'hayehon u'v'yomehon u'akainu b'Yisrael, bagala Bisman Kari, Meryl, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mavora, Le'alma Me'omaya, Yitbarak, Yitbarak, V'yishtabak, Yitnomar, Yitnomam, Yitnaseh, V'yitadar, V'yitalev, V'yitalal, Shemei D'Kedusha B'rihu, Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbehata v'nemata, damiram b'alma v'meru. Amen. And now, call to worship. Please rise. Page 146. Baruch et Adonai Hamavorach. Baruch Adonai Hamavorach Leolam Vahed.
We continue on page 149 in the middle. This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Arabim. And we continue on page 146 with the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever.
This is on page 154. Please be seated. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions with which I charge you to this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorpost of your house and on your gates. Thus you shall remember to observe all my commandments and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai, your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai, your God.
This poem is not in the prayer book, and my mother and I will be reading, and it is called We All Stood Together by Meryl Feld. My brother and I were at Sinai. He kept a journal of what he saw, of what he heard, of what it all meant to him. I wish I had such a record of what happened to me there.
It seems like every time I want to write, I can't. I'm always holding a baby, one of my own or one for a friend, always holding a baby, so my hands are never free to write things down.
And then as time passes, the peculiars, the hard data, the who, what, when, where, why slip away from me. And all I'm left is the feeling. But feelings are just sounds, the vowel barking of a mute.
My brother is so sure of what he heard. After all, he's got a record of it. Consonant after consonant after consonant.
If we remembered it together, we could recreate holy time, sparks flying.
Mi chamocha baili Madonai, mi chamocha netar b'kodesh, nora tehilot o sefele, nora tehilot o sefele. Malchutecha uvanecha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe uMiriam, zeli anu ve'amaru, anu ve'amaru. Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed.
Page 161. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, hapeperes tukat shalom aleinu, ve'akol amo Israel ve'al Yerushalayim.
Please turn to page 46 and rise for tefillah. And 164, if you're in the other prayer book. Adonai sifatai tiftahu fi tefillah. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor v'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei HaKol, V'zoker Chasei Avot Imahot, U'mevii Geulah Libnei Bneihem, L'ma'an Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer Mashiach Magid. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh hakol atah rav lehoshia. Mechalkel chayim v'chesed, Mechayeh hakol v'rachamim rabim. Somech noflim v'rofeh kolim, Umatir asurim, Umayeh emerato, Mishnei afar, Mikamocha b'kiburot, Umidol elav, Melech memid umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah l'chayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, U'kedoshim b'chol yom yahukasela. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
Please turn to page 173. May these hours of rest and renewal open up our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment of this day, and may this day fulfill its promise. You may take a silent moment for your own private prayers or meditation.
Oseh shalom b'mrama, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, imru, amen. Yaseh shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom. Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
As we prepare to take the Torah from the ark, thank you, Linda. As we prepare to take the Torah from the ark and prepare for its reading, just a quick word. Tonight's Torah portion, which you'll also get to hear read in English, is from Leviticus 19. It's called the Holiness Code. It's in the exact middle of the Torah. People with more time on their hands or more obsessive behavior or whatever it is have taken the time in past centuries to confirm that it is the exact middle of the Torah, this exact chapter. And it begins, "You'll be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy." So it's really the only part of the Torah that gives a real reason for why we do it. The rest just say, do it. Do it because you were a slave, or do it because you were freed. Do it because I say so. This Torah portion says, you will emulate the best in me, God, and you will do holy acts. And through holy acts, you will come to understand what it means to live your life as a righteous, caring, kind person. Until about 2,000 years ago, women were much more involved. That may surprise you, but we had women priestesses. We had women judges like Deborah. We had women leaders like Miriam. Maybe not all of them, but more than we care to think now. And then temple was destroyed. The rabbis took over. They started writing the Talmud. They and the descendants of the priests put some structure on everything. That is the 1-minute version of Jewish history. There's much more to it. But what a surprise that the roles of men and women became much, much more defined about 2,000 years ago by the writers of the Talmud. We have an opportunity tonight. And for those of you who are going to say to me, the Oneg Shabbat, Rabbi, the scrolls don't match. I'm well aware of that. Thank you. Tonight, one of these doesn't match because one of these, the one that says Am Yisrael Chai, is a Torah reconstructed and rescued from a town out of the Holocaust that now sits in our chapel all year round. Tonight, that Torah scroll will be read and paraded by women who take their place as our leaders, as they have for decades here, and return to their role. And when it is time for the Aliyah of the Torah, any woman, I know I'm excluding men, it's not fair, but they'll get an MRJ service. Any women who would like to come up for an Aliyah, even if you've never had an Aliyah to the Torah, if there's enough people, you can sort of, if you're shy, be in the back if you want, but should feel free either to join for the Hakafah or to join us on the Aliyah here to read from the Torah as Jews wished and wondered and wanted for thousands of years. Tonight we celebrate that opportunity with Bot Mitzvah, with rabbis, with leaders. Page 364, we prepare to take the Torah from the ark.
Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, udevar Adonai mirushalayim, zu sha'arim rashechem usu pichei olam. V'yavo melech hakavod, mihu ze melech hakavod, Adonai tzvaot, hu melech hakavod, Selah.
This scroll has the secret of our people's life from Sinai until now, passed down from generation, from mothers to daughters and sons, from fathers to fathers and sons, grandparents to grandchildren. Its teaching is love and justice, goodness and hope. Freedom is its gift to all who treasure it.
Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah. Le'amo Yisrael b'kiddushato. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo. Gadlul Adonai iti unromema Shemo yachdav. Lecha Adonai hagedula hagivura hatiferet v'hanetzach v'hahod. Kicho bashamayim uvaretz, kicho bashamayim uvaretz. Lecha Adonai hamamlacha, ve'amid na'aseh lechol erosh. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu lehar kadsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu lehar kadsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu lehar kadsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu lehar kadsho. Al shlosha divarim, al shlosha divarim, al shlosha divarim, haolam omeid. Al shlosha divarim, al shlosha divarim, al shlosha divarim, haolam omeid. Al haTorah ve'al havodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. Al haTorah ve'al havodah ve'al gemilut chasadim.
Please be seated. So there we go. I'll just ask once. If you want to come up for an Aliyah of the Torah, you can. I feel like some of you are going to check how many people come up, and then you're going to be like, okay, like the tipping point. There we go. You don't have to, but you're invited to. And the blessing is on 368. We don't have the first female president of Beth-El here tonight. I know she's watching at home, Louise, but we've got another one. I want to say the second, or am I missing yes? So I'm not going to make you get up, but I'm going to wave to you. I can tell you don't want to get up, but want to just say hello. No, I have more than one, but my eye is locking there on Judy, and now I see Maddie. Now, if I'm missing another one, I'm in trouble. So you can wave. Yes. Okay, were you a president? Yes, over at the yes. Good to have you here with us. Someone just pointed you out. This is for friends like that. Lori's hiding behind here. I would have remembered when she came up to read. I know you were the president from here. Look, I've shamed her. I've shamed Lori just to come up there. I wasn't trying to shame you. I was just making sure you knew that you were acknowledged. So now it's like, look what he's done. He's made me, I didn't mean to do that. I just wanted to thank you. And anyone at home who's ever been a president of a congregation, we thank you. And Louise, we certainly thank you. I hope Gordon's making you a nice dinner tonight in honor of your presidency. Here we go. Yay, the blessing is on 368. I'm going to get out of here.
Everybody please join. Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol hamim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai Noten HaTorah. Uvkutzrechem et kitzir artzechem lo teoleh pe'at tzadcha liktzor veleket kitzircha lo tilaket v'charmacha lo teoleh Ufrat charmacha lo tilakeh le'ani v'laker tazovotam ani Adonai Elohechem lo tignovu v'lo tachachashu v'lo tishakru ish ba'amito v'lo tishavu bishmi lashaker v'chilalta et shem Elohecha ani Adonai lo tashok et reacha v'lo tigzol lo talin piulat zachir etcha ad boker lo tichalel cheresh v'lifnei ifer lo titain michshol v'yareta melachecha ani Adonai.
When you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not reap all the way to the edges of your field, or gather the gleanings of your harvest. You shall not pick your vineyard bare, or gather the fallen fruit of your vineyard. You shall leave them for the poor and the stranger. I am Adonai your God. You shall not steal. You shall not deal deceitfully or falsely with one another. You shall not swear falsely by my name, profaning the name of your God. I am Adonai. You shall not defraud your fellow Israelite. You shall not commit robbery. The wages of a laborer shall not remain with you until morning. You shall not insult the deaf or place a stumbling block before the blind. You shall fear your God. I am Adonai.
Before we close the Torah, please turn to page 371. And amongst us is someone who is actually studying for the rabbinate, heading to Israel later this month, and I ask Gretchen to join us in Mishaberach.
Mishaberach avotenu mekor habracha limotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mikor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Please join on page 368 at the bottom for the blessing after the reading of Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Before you go down, and we'll return the Torah to the ark, anyone who knows words you can join in. We bless you, and anyone who just wanted to come up but they were shy. Anybody else? We bless you. We kadoshim to you. The Torah portion says, "You will be holy, for I, the Lord and God, are holy." Thank each of you and all those who came before you, who taught us about justice and right, kindness, and carried the Torah on their shoulders, even when they were not allowed to carry the Torah. Thank you for being exemplars of holiness, for helping us to be holy through your holy sacrifices. We ask God's blessing upon you with full awareness of the many, many generations who came before you, who might not have been able to read from the Torah or carry the Torah or touch the Torah, but had Torah in their souls and had Torah in their hearts. Yevarecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha.
Can you hear that song?
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God protect you and strengthen you and guide you and bring you peace.
Amen.
And we will ask everybody to rise because we're putting the Torah back in the ark.
Vezot haTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi yadonai b'yad Moshe.
We're good. Please be seated.
Growing up in Fort Worth, Rabbi Schur did not allow any girls to have a bat mitzvah. That was me. I didn't get to have one. But when my own girls, Melissa and Heather, reached the ripe old age to have their bat mitzvah in the early 1990s, they just jumped at the chance to have their own bat mitzvah, and they were so happy. They were so glad that they were able to take it in part and to participate with Rabbi Mecklenburger, and Livia Levine was their tutor at the time. They just loved their experience, and it was just a fantastic learning experience for all of our family.
My bat mitzvah story actually starts with my older sister Barbara's bat mitzvah when I was just 6 years old. Being the youngest, and of course the favorite, I knew what Barbara gets, I get too. I grew up in a conservative synagogue of about 100 Jewish families in the small town of Port Jervis, New York, in the Borscht Belt, about an hour and a half from Manhattan. I still recall the feeling of pride when leading the service from the bima. I saved a copy of my bat mitzvah speech typed on Temple Beth-El stationery, as well as the bat mitzvah invitation, for June 10th, 1967, which was on my actual 13th birthday. I've also kept the photo my parents took of me on that sunny morning in my white dress and matching white hair bow. Also saved are a few bat mitzvah cards from close family members, and in particular from my third grade non-Jewish public school teacher whom I adored. I have some handwritten personal notes of Mazel Tov, as well as the pre-printed thank you notes I sent out. I distinctly remember practicing my Haftorah from a vinyl record I received in the mail. No tutoring session option was available, but by the time I got to the Bima, no one would have known the difference, or at least that's what I thought at the time. Back then, we girls had a nice enough luncheon at the temple after the Shabbat service, but the boys, including my brother Steve, 5 years older, had a big evening bar mitzvah party blowout at the temple. At 8 years old, I vividly recall his very fun and festive celebration, including the traditional candle lighting. I'm not sure about the first time I met a female rabbi, though likely as a young adult. My dad, Joseph Sarfati, was president of our congregation for many years, so he would invite the rabbi over to our house for dinners and informally. The rabbis were all men, though. Some young who had just finished rabbinic school in New York City and either single or newly married, so their wives or significant others would accompany them to services and to our family home. Rabbi and Michelle, thank you for coordinating this meaningful Shabbat service and for allowing me to share my sweet memories. May? I was enjoying the middle. Don't make me do that.
Page 586, please rise for Aleinu.
Aleinu leshaberach ladon hakol, lateit gedula leotzer reshit, shelo asanu kiyom haratzot, velo samanu kifishvot hadama, shelo sam kakeinu kahem, ve'or aleinu kikol hamolam.
You may be seated, even though you're going to get up again in 1 minute, because it's the custom of this congregation to rise, if you're comfortable, when you hear the name of one you are marking, remembering, either in Shloshim or Yortzeit. It is Shloshim, the period of 30-day mourning of Robert Kott. Robert is the brother of Adele Ahrensberg. And Adele, our thoughts and prayers are with you. We know you may be watching this service from the Staten. You spoke about your love and raising your brother when your father passed away and he moved into your much younger brother. The many wonderful memories and times you had. You spoke on the phone daily for as long as he was able. And so we offer our prayers to you, Adele, as well as to your daughter, Phyllis, and your granddaughter, Jillian, on the passing of their uncle and great-uncle. In addition, we mention the names of the yard sites, the anniversaries of their deaths, of Jack Berger, David Bilski, S.J. Bloom, Bernard Bodner, Linda Ray Bomash, Shelley Bovin, Naomi Karb Bronstein, Francis Carlisle, Hubert Chase, Belle Silverman Cohen, Joanne Fells, Sylvia Fenton, Sidney Freed, Charlotte Goldman, John Hannon, Mary Hendelman, Adela Herbert, Betty Herman, Hannah Klein, Rose Eileen Litwin, Lester M. Maskell, Estelle Avery Merkin, Seth Mitchell, Edward Osser, Mildred Perlman, Blanche Piquel, Goldie Roberts, Jimmy Rosenthal, Sam Rosenthal, Mimi Ross, Ben Sandler, Lester Schneeweiss, Belia Simon, Beverly G. Skugard, John Stein, Rosabelle Litwin Tan, Reuben Taylor, Patricia Utrup, Barry Van, Jack Wolf, Victor S. Young, Gerald Zieselman, and on this Shabbat, any other names? It may not be their yard sites this Shabbat, but those who have sacrificed for us, those whose contributions and gifts and sacrifices led to our presence here today. Page 598.
Yit Gadal Yit Gadvash Shemei Rabbah, Ve'amad Divrei Chirutei, Ve'amlich Malchutei, B'chai Chon Uvyamechon, Utachol Beit Yisrael, Bagala Vizman Kariv Ve'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevarach Le'olam Omaya Almaya. Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitramam V'yitnaseh. V'yithadar V'yitalel V'yitalal Shemei D'Kudashah Barechu. Le'el Min Kol Birchata V'shirata. Tush B'chata V'nechemata. Damiran Be'ama Ve'emru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya. V'chayim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael. Ve'emru Amen. Osa Shalom Bimromav. Huya Aseh Shalom. Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael. Ve'emru Amen.
Remain standing. We're going to join in Kiddush and Motzi first, and then to our closing song, because once our closing song is done, there's no bringing back order. It's a wonderful closing song. And then all of you, if you are coming to the dinner, go to the microphone. If you're coming to the dinner, just turn right. Follow everybody else into the social hall. A thank you to the women of Reformed Judaism, to our sisterhood. A thank you to the men of Reformed Judaism, our brotherhood, who are cooking, and to anyone else who may have helped this Shabbat. And those of you at home saying, what, I'm missing a dinner? Check the e-blast. Check the bulletin. If you don't get the bulletin or you don't get the e-blast, we can get you either one. Just let us know. Let us know. Our closing, well, we're going to join together in the Kiddush on page 123. I feel like they're holding your challah for the other room, I guess.
I guess so.
Isn't that ironic? The challah baker is here, and the challah is somewhere else. I don't know.
Okay.
But we'll join in the Kiddush.
That was a surprise. In the Great Hall.
In the Great Hall, page 123. And I'll get out of the way. And there is a Kiddush cup. We got that one.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Susan, you ready?
Yes.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam barei pri hagafen. Okay. Guess it's dinner time, everybody. Oh, excuse me, the hamotzi. Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good.
Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
And you can have some, but I bet you're holding out for yours. It's somewhere, unless someone made off with it, Cindy. Our closing song.
I hope it's over there.
That's pretty funny. Our closing song can be found on page 646, Miriam's song. Anyone who wants to join together here, there, wherever you are, page 646. Who else can help lead us with our yes? Here we go.
Michelle, you going to join us too? Anybody else want to come up and sing? Come on, Haley. Okay.
You gonna dance?
Holding you to it. You want to start?
And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. And Miriam was a weaver of unique variety. The tapestry she wove was one which sang our history. With every thread and every strand she crafted her delight. A woman touched with spirit, she danced toward the light. As the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. As Miriam stood upon the shores and gazed across the sea, the wonder of this miracle she soon came to believe. Whoever thought the sea would part with an outstretched hand, and we would pass to freedom and march to the promised land. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one who we exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. And Miriam the prophet took her timbrel in her hand, and all the women followed her just as she had planned. And Miriam raised her voice in song, she sang with praise and might. We just lived through a miracle, we're gonna dance tonight. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. I can't believe they put Torah.